All right, Javier, Santiago, man, thank you. I appreciate it. You've had a busy week, a lot of shows, getting ready for your album that's coming out. Is it coming out tonight?
It's coming out. That's a good question. Definitely
Pro-
tomorrow. Definitely October 18th. Officially, it's October 18th right now, so
Okay,
it
yeah.
could be on Spotify right now as
So
we
this
speak.
literally could be like the first second of its release as we're speaking right
Definitely.
now. That's powerful.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about like the process leading up to creating this album. How long you've been working on it? Let's start with that. How long you been working on the album?
Well, I recorded it in 2016. So, just a little more information about it. It's called B-Sides, the Phoenix Sessions, because Phoenix was my first record, and this is the same recording session. So this was in September of 2016. So it's been over 3 years
Wow.
since we recorded it. Yeah.
And it took like mastering it and everything. It's taken that long for the process.
Well, I was working on the first record for like the first couple years, and then this one for the past year or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were like what was your headspace at going back to making this album? Like what were your inspirations? What were you trying to Were there anything that you were trying to accomplish with this record?
I mean, it was kind of an afterthought, you know. Hence the whole like B-sides thing, as if it was like it was like the second to the first record, literally, but also like just they weren't like my favorites, you know. So, but to be honest,
He doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean that. They were all his favorites.
it's true. No, no. But they grew on me. So
Okay.
like over time, now I'm like starting to like them more.
Okay,
And-
wait, I get it. So I want to clarify. So Phoenix,
Yeah.
your first album that came out, okay,
Right.
and now B-sides
Yes.
are kind of not the leftovers, but they were the unreleased tracks to Phoenix that you are now
Exactly.
releasing.
I'm now releasing.
Okay, that's
They're
why I was.
unreleased. They're not. They're still great.
Okay.
And I actually am starting to like them a lot more.
All
So
right.
so yeah.
There's validity to that though. There's been like at least two or three like artists that I listen to right now that like when they first came out, like I wasn't into it.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't in like that headspace. Like I can think
Right.
of like one like Run the Jewels for example. Like probably like my favorite hip hop group that's out like right now current. And when they first came out, man, and I was like, like listening to their shit, and I was like, what the fuck is this, dude? These like kind of
Right.
like electro beats, like over hip hop, and I wasn't in the headspace where I was like looking for that sound.
Yeah.
But then like a year later, like with a different like mindset and what I'm like open to, and then it just sinks in like how like amazing and like what a masterpiece like it was in the first place.
I'm hoping that everyone looks at this the same way that I did, and no, I hope they like it instantly. but but yeah, I think there was something to it the whole time. I just didn't notice it until more recently.
It's the way the world
So,
works sometimes,
Yeah,
man.
definitely.
So tell me a little bit
Um,
about like how you got started in music. I know you're a very young composer. Definitely at you're if not the youngest, one of the youngest composers that we have coming around, and who has his own shows. And you also teach and everything like that. And you're living the music life. And just kind of like where did it start with you?
Well, it all started with my parents, of course. But my parents were musicians, so they had a big impact on me. And just like I don't know, I just grew up like hearing about like gigs and like you know loading gear, and like practicing and like shedding. And like my dad was a drummer, so that's why I did this. But yeah, it was very much a part of my life, I guess, from a very young age. I was always playing piano since I was like 4 or 5. But yeah, I just knew ever since I was a little kid that I wanted to be a professional musician. So this is like me as like an artist is not the exact same, but it overlaps with my musicianship and my music career. It's like I'm also an artist and I like write my own music and want to make statements, artistic statements. So it's like those are similar, but they're not the same thing, and they just overlap for different things. Yeah.
Clarify that for me, because I get you, man, but like I
Yeah.
want to understand like the difference between like a musician and an artist, right? Because like I want to like say that like a musician is an artist, but then you have like probably two separate agendas, I would imagine, with your music, and then well, explain it to me. That's what I'm asking. Clarify that
Well,
first.
for example, for this, like I've always, like you said, I was a composer, and I'm like really flattered because um, I think I overlooked the fact that I'm a composer because I always am a pianist too,
Okay.
you know, and so it's like just those two things combined are like, yeah, I mean, being a pianist is like, it can be a very technical thing, like just practicing, and like it's almost like it can be like a sport, you know, like there's, you know, and in that sense, I guess there's creativity as well, but there's also a lot of technical things and just like pure, just like skill that you have to, you know, and craftsmanship, and I love that, but I also love just having my own voice and being like, well, you know, what sets me apart from every other piano player, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, my compositions, I guess, you know,
Yeah.
that's what makes me unique, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
But yeah, I just love to write, and just playing the piano is, it's just really hard to do. And so like sometimes I like, I don't even think I do my own compositions justice sometimes. Sometimes I wish someone else could just play them, and I could
Yeah.
just hear them and be like, oh, I love it, you know.
I think you need
I
to give
love this
yourself
song,
some
but-
credit.
Thanks. Thank you.
So okay, I get it. So basically, like when you are composing or writing, that is your art, right? And then
Yeah.
when you are a pianist, that's when you're like in a more technical place where you're like a musician. Am I getting that
Yes,
correctly?
yes, and
Okay. They do
they overlap. And
Overlap. Right.
Yeah, so there is some, yeah.
You know, like honestly, like when I was watching you play the piano earlier, just like literally just like trying to even follow your hands, like it's hard for me to compute that the brain can function that quickly. You know, like I mean, it's just insane to me. Like just 10 different fingers, all with their own little kind of like agenda,
Thanks.
all just like individually working to make one, you know, one groove kind of thing. You know, to like make it all click and work. And it boggles my mind. It trips me the fuck out, to be honest with
Well,
you.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely also have to give credit to the people I'm playing with because they make me sound good, usually, you know. So it's like, yeah.
Did you have, you know, like Julio and some of the other guys that you play with a lot on this record, making the record?
You know what? Actually, it's a different band entirely.
Okay.
So this is kind of a new band that I'm playing with in California. And yeah, it's amazing to hear them play the same music. It's like just as rewarding, and like it makes it new and fresh for me too. Because
Yeah.
I've been playing the same compositions for like a while now. Like I wrote a lot of that stuff years and years ago, and like I love playing with different people, especially these guys, because they make it they just make it really fresh and new for me.
So I know you are a full-time musician.
Yeah.
What tell me about like some shows that you got that you're excited about, or things that are just like kind of connected to the album that you're looking forward to doing?
Man, I'm looking forward to making another album. But that's one thing, and then
He doesn't mean that either. He means he's really looking forward to this album that he just put out.
this one too.
Yeah.
I love this one. Go buy a copy. Today.
All of them. I
All
bought
of them.
one today.
All.
Yeah,
Well,
I did.
I mean, I'm looking forward to collaborating with other people too. This is a
Yeah.
lot of this is like my own compositions and just me like in solitude, like at the piano, and like a lot of them are very like introspective sounding and like emotional and like epic, and I love that. But I'm also looking forward to just making some like music that you can just party to, and like
Yeah.
it just feels good and like has like a beat, you can dance to it. And you know, that's not to say some of this stuff doesn't have those elements, but I'm just looking forward to that too, because it's like a new phase of my life where you know, it's just like a different phase of my career in artistry, you know.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because it's like something that I've thought about since meeting you guys like over this past year. And you know, like your music, it requires an IQ. You know, at least like a lot of it does. You know, and it's like it's if you aren't kind of familiar with jazz, you know, like I was when I first started, you know, getting into the scene, you don't understand it, you know, and like some of it, a lot of it, I still don't understand. But I was gonna ask you about that because you guys are young guys. I know you like a lot of different types of music, you know, like current music. And what do you think that you need to do to kind of like bridge the gap, you know, like to some of these audiences that might just want to party or might just want to dance, you know, and like have a little fun and don't necessarily have like the IQ that comes along with an accomplished jazz musician?
Well, I hope to bring those audiences in by incorporating elements of other music and like culture that that's a part of my culture and a part of who I am. Of course, it's going to be genuine, but and not like pretentious. But yeah, then I hope when they want to have a good time, they'll listen to us play something that's a little more conducive to that sort of thing. And then when they go home and they just chill and they're in their room, kicking it, or they're driving, they can listen to the more introspective, kind of like cerebral sort of like music that requires more, that
IQ.
The IQ thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope to just, expose people to that type of music at the very least, and then, but yeah, you're right. It is definitely like it's a certain type of music that requires a certain type of listening.
So what are some of the other influences or just like other types of music that you are into that could be potential influences, for your future music coming out?
Oh man, I mean I love I've always been a fan of hip hop and electronic music and like indie rock, and I love some of these like lo-fi hip hop artists like in Oakland and Bay Area as well as LA, like Mono Mari, Flying Lotus is like he's like legendary.
Yeah.
Salami Rose, she's a newer artist that's out from Oakland, doing some big things.
That's
And,
like the lo-fi stuff.
The lo-fi stuff, yeah. This cat Daoud, great producer, from out here, and so many others that I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah, I love hip hop and R&B.
I'm into the lo-fi vibe myself. I grew up in the '90s, so it's like '90s hip hop and R&B. Like that's literally like what I grew up on. And I think that there is a market for jazz and hip hop. I know it's like it's already been done, but like I'm really into some of these just like very simple kind of like just actual instrumentals, like not like actual instruments being played, and then like kind of like guys coming in and like doing their vocals over it. I know like the Mac Miller Swimming album, like before he passed away, it was very jazzy. A lot of it was just like sometimes it was just like a single bass on a track, and like him flowing over that. It was like very very simple, but it was also very musical at the same time.
Definitely.
And like I dig that vibe, man, and I think there's a market for it, and I would like to see more of that type of collaboration, between musicians, and hip hop artists as well too.
Me too, definitely. Yeah, Mac Miller, he was very much like a musician, and like as well as a lyricist and MC and all that. But,
That's just like one example that I'm talking about.
Totally.
But
totally.
I love like when just like they do just like heavy bass line, like actual like real bass lines, like on hip hop tracks, and I just like there's such a groove to it. Saxophone, of course the piano, what you're into and stuff like that. But
Definitely.
it would be dope to see you kind of collaborate on some of those levels.
Yes, I would love to do that. I'd love to do more of that and release that. A lot of that stuff I've been doing kind of under wraps, but But yeah, this more recent stuff is definitely more on the jazz side. So I really hope everyone enjoys that, but also looks forward to me doing more of that stuff too. So
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm excited.
tell them again where you can find the album.
You can find the album pretty much all streaming platforms, but I strongly advise you and recommend that you go to bandcamp.com, javiersantiago.bandcamp.com, and buy it there.
And you could buy a motherfucking CD too. You could do that still, like an actual CD
Yeah.
that you like touch and hold and like put into a CD player and things like that.
Yeah.
I know, cause I did it. I did it tonight.
Just did it tonight.
But yeah, man. So I'm excited to go home and listen to the B-sides,
Thank you.
and excited to see what you got coming out moving forward too. So thank you for your
having me.
time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, bro.
All right.
Thanks so much.